Telkom was founded as part of the South African Government Department of Post and Telecommunications and listed in 2003. It has a market cap of 10 billion rand. The SA government still owns 40% of Telkom and is currently considering its options. Telkom has a price-to-earnings ratio of 6.4, but has recently suspended dividend payments. Paul, what do you make of Telkom? It's been in the news.
Yeah, it's a total mess, really. It's a total mess. So they obviously spun off Vodacom, and that's why you see here the share price did that whack down there in 08. But to be fair, what we've had since then now is the company sort of made a colossal management error up in Nigeria, bought a company there called Multilinks and basically wrote off billions. They've got a magnificent data network. Why? Because they've spent since, since they were part of the Department of Communications, as you said there, building up this network of copper cables as well as fiber optic backbones and microwave backbones. So the replacement value of that network is apparently, like 30 billion rand. But the market cap of the company is only 10, which tells you the market thinks that under the current management team, and more importantly, under the current shareholder structure, they're going to continue to destroy value rather than make money.
So what do you make of Pinky? Are you right now?
Look, I mean, Paul is perfectly right. I think, in fact, the replacement cost of it is even greater than 30 billion. I think it's much more than that, in fact. If you had to rebuild Telkom right now, it'll cost you much closer to 100 billion, I would probably think, than 30. But if you just look at the kind of Paul mentioned the infrastructure, but also some of the rights. For instance, the LTE networks that networks we want to bring into place for MTN and Vodacom, they've got to use their current bandwidth to do that. They've got to use their current spectrum to work with that. Hata can use spectrum that has not been used at the moment to do that. Hata, by the way, of course, is their mobile operations. Hata as well, therefore, Hata is able to come out with these incredibly cheap data offerings. In fact, it's also coming out with incredibly cheap voice offerings, unlimited voice to any network, I think, for about 1,000 rand some change, which is quite a good deal if you look at it compared to what you'd pay for a similar kind of thing, if it's even available elsewhere in South Africa. So there are so many gems basically in this pie of Telkom. And the problem is that the management, and not just the management, but the shareholder, that being the South African government, has been unable to allow the company to actually exploit them. For instance, recently they had the KT issue where Clear Telecoms was going to come in, buy a stake in the company for vastly more than the current price.
It was abandoned, right?
It was abandoned, not abandoned, but forced to be abandoned by the state after the company had negotiated quite a way down the line. And without that deal by KT, it doesn't seem quite likely that the company, remember, we have all this infrastructure in place, but infrastructure ages, infrastructure has to be updated. The company needs to spend about 25 billion to upgrade infrastructure to levels that are required over the next few years. And when you have a market cap of 10 billion, getting 25 billion worth of infrastructure being done, it's going to be quite difficult. So the question is, how is government going to get around these things here? And that's the question we're talking about at the moment.
So how is government going to get around these things?
I don't know. I just don't see them doing it. I think what's going to happen, as we saw at the recent AGM, where the Minister of Communications actually arrived and voted down the non-executive directors, I think it's just going to be a mess. It's going to be a series of sort of meetings and plans and so on, which government is very special at doing, and it's just going to go nowhere. I think ultimately it's going to be the same as SAA. They're going to realize that it's always in constant turnaround mode, and maybe you can sell it off to someone. But of course that requires people to recognize that they were wrong, and no human is good at ever recognizing that you're wrong. So
I want to find out from you, Paul, that whole Hata and Cell C deal is still a rumor. What's going on there?
Yeah, well, it's possible because Cell C is owned by the Saudi Oger group. They've stuck a lot of cash in, so they do need to scale up. So I suppose that is possible, a Cell C, Hata kind of combination. But again, I mean, I would imagine then you'll have people going round and round and round and failing to agree. So for me, it's not hot.
Viv, hot or not?
I am hot. I just think that the value of what's involved in the company and the fact that, as Paul mentioned, it's been in such a mess for such a long time that we actually are at a point in which government is going to be forced to do something. And virtually anything they do, I mean, we talk about the Hata deal, we talk about the possibility of nationalization, renationalization of the company. All those things will be positive for the stock. No matter what, almost virtually any solution they come to for that massive infrastructure spend is going to be positive for the stock, and therefore I am hot.
So one hot and one not on Telkom.